First of all, thank you very much for joining the presentation today evening. This presentation, the identification of pipettes is like a big problem for most of the beginners. And so what I have put together is like a collection of slides from my experience, because pipettes is one area which I really struggled with at the beginning. So whatever pointers that I was able to put together, I put it together, and I made it like targeted towards beginners. There is like, of course, like Nikhil, who is an expert in bird identification, on the call with us right now. So Nikhil will correct me whenever I'm making a mistake, but so we'll proceed with the presentation. Once again, welcome all for this presentation. My name is Balaji. I am part of Coimbatore Nature Society and Salim Ali Naturalist Forum, and also Bombay Natural History Society. I did a basic course in ornithology. So that's basically about me. And in Coimbatore Nature Society, we have had like a discussion a few days back where one of the Coimbatore Nature Society is one of the new members requested for a presentation on identification of pipettes. So I put together a few slides. So we'll go to the next slide. Yeah. So what we are going to do in this presentation today is that we're going to see what are the pipettes found in our region, how do we go about identifying the pipettes. There'll be like a short quiz. We'll summarize all the identification pointers, and then we'll quickly conclude the session. So we have about approximately about 35 slides. So I'm allocating roughly about 1 minute per slide. So we should get done by about 40 minutes of time, which is about the time we have on the Zoom call anyway. So, I mean, I don't know if we'll have a lot of time for question and answers. If at all we get disconnected on the Zoom call, I request you to sign in with the same credentials again, and we can get going. So without further ado, we'll proceed with the presentation. So as a disclaimer, I'd like to state a few points. That this presentation only covers the pipettes found in South India. We don't discuss pipettes like rosy pipet or upland pipet, the other pipettes, water pipet, and things like that, which are not found in other regions. So this covers only the pipettes found in South India. This presentation is meant for beginners to intermediate bird watchers, and it uses a very highly simplified process. I don't want to confuse the beginners with a lot of terminology. I made it extremely simple. So as a consequence, we don't discuss juveniles, we don't discuss aberrant individuals, we don't discuss first winter individuals, and so on and so forth, which might be a little confusing to distinguish. So we'll leave it for another day. So if you look at what are the pipettes found in our region, so we have like the paddy-field pipet, the Richards pipet, the Blyth's pipet, tawny pipet, tree pipet, olive-backed pipet, long-billed pipet, Nilgiri pipet, and the red-throated pipet. Now the red-throated pipet is like a very fairly new addition to this list of pipettes in the South India. Earlier red-throated pipet used to be seen in the Andaman Islands, but to the mainland red-throated pipet was not seen. But then we have like only in the last few months we have had reports from almost simultaneously from Bangalore, the Hesarghetta grasslands, and also from the Uppar biosphere. So I thought we should include that as well. And another point, what I'd like to say here is that most of the images used in this presentation are my own. except for a couple of images, which I'll be mentioning in the picture credits. So what is the process that we'll be using for identification? First of all, like some of the newcomers, they sort of confuse pipits and larks. And I made this mistake. I'm sure a lot of newcomers will be making this mistake. So we should get this cleared before we get into pipit identification itself. And the pipit identification process is like basically a process of elimination. So what was the timing of the sighting? Which part of the year? Are you seeing it in the winter season, which is September to April? Are you seeing in the summers? So that is like an important pointer which we can use it to eliminate a few species. Location and habitat where we are seeing, whether you are seeing it in the hills, the high elevations, or in the plains, or the lower elevations. And some of the chest markings on the pipits. How do we differentiate the pipits of the the pipits seen in the hills? How do we distinguish the pipits seen in the plains? So this is something that you don't find it in any typical textbook. This is something that I've sort of like come up with in the process of making this presentation. So if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them towards the end. So as with any species of birds, we need to know the different parts of the birds in order to identify them. But for the pipits, there are some 6 or 7 parts that we need to clearly focus on, whether we are seeing it on the field or whether you are taking a photograph and analyzing it at leisure in your computer. You basically need to look at the lores. The lore is nothing but the area between the bird's eye and its beak. And the bill or the beak of the bird, the malar stripes. The malar stripes are nothing but a stripe which extends from the beak to the throat. So that is the malar stripe. The breast or the chest area of the bird, the flanks. Flanks is nothing but the area right next to the wings, from the wings to the belly. That area is called the flank. The mantle. Mantle is the area between the nape, the nape and the wings. So that area is called the mantle. The median coverts. Median coverts are sort of like a wing bar. You see it in pipits. So a tail. So these 6 or 7 parts we need to look very carefully when trying to identify a pipit. So I've marked those parts in red just for the sake of your understanding. The illustrations, of course, like sourced from the internet. Given the source below. So the first thing that we need to get clarified when before we start understanding how to distinguish pipits and larks is that pipits tend to be like, very slimmer and lighter birds. The bill is very slender. Wings are very narrow. This is something that you'll see it in the flight. The tail is typically longer tail. The nostrils are fully exposed and there's no crest in a pipit. But whereas in a lark, the lark is basically a dumpier or a heavier looking bird. The bill is like very heavy and thick. Most of the time, like the bill is the main identification pointer for a lark. So if it has like a very thick bill, I mean, you can straight away say that it is a lark, it is not a pipit. The wings are like a rounder and broader wings for a lark. The tail is comparatively short. For example, Jordan's bush lark, which is the most common bush lark, or the Indian bush lark, if you see, the tail is actually quite short. And the nostrils are sometimes like are not at all visible, or they are partially exposed. whereas like in the pipits, like they're fully exposed. Some of the larks show a crest and some of them don't. Even for the birds like oriental skylark, which is supposed to show a crest, sometimes the crest is like not visible in the field. So you basically have to look at the other aspects of the bird as well. Typically, lark will show after of the 5 or 6 aspects that I mentioned here, at least 3 to 4 aspects the lark will clearly show. The bill will be heavier, thicker, the tail will be short, the nostrils will be partially exposed, the crest will be there. So all this will help you distinguish a lark from a pipit. So for the purpose of illustration, I've collected some of my images to show like what is a typical pipit, how a typical pipit looks like, how a typical lark looks like. So from the top left image is of a Blyth's pipit. You can see the slender beak. So the bottom left is of a tawny pipit. Again, a very a slender beak. The center image is of a rufous-tailed lark. You can see how the bill is very thick and very stout looking bill. The top right image is of a greater short-toed lark. And the bottom right is of a Malabar lark. So in all the larks, you can see that even when there's no crest present, you can see that the bill is like quite stout and thicker, heavier looking bill. And the Malabar lark, of course, like has like a very clear crest showing. So that's like a dead giveaway. So most of the larks, people will be able to identify very clearly when they see it in the field. But the one lark which is confuses a lot of people most of the time is the oriental skylark. Because the problem with the oriental skylark is that the bill is actually one of the slimmest of these larks. And of course, like the bird shown in this slide shows a crest, but sometimes in the field, the crest is also folded. And sometimes it's very confusing. So, but you will have to look at the other aspects. For example, it's like a stout, heavier looking bird. It has a very crouching stance. So this kind of pointers we need to look at to zero in that it is a lark and it's not a pipit. Okay, so when it comes to pipit identification, it's basically a process of elimination. So I mean, when you start identifying pipits, when you're just beginning to identify pipits, what I've given you is like a sort of like a flow chart in which you can eliminate pipits. So the first is like we need to understand that not all the pipits seen in our region are residents. So the only 3 residents which are in South India are the paddy-filled pipit, the long-billed pipit, and the Nilgiri pipit. And the rest, all the pipits are migratory. Pritchard's, Blyth's, tawny, tree pipit, olive-backed pipit, red-throat pipit. These are all winter migrants, and you typically see them only in September to April months. So if you are seeing like a pipit in, let's say, June, so it has to be one of the residents because the paddy-filled pipit, the long-billed pipit, or the Nilgiri pipit. So it's you have like a very narrow subset from which you can identify the pipit. So whenever you post a picture for identification, you should always post what time of the year you sighted with the date and which location you sighted. I mean, for example, whether it was like in the hills, whether it was in the plains, what type of habitat was it? So all these things are very critical in zeroing in on the ID. So the timing of the sighting is very critical. Let's say like if you are seeing it in June or July, you can eliminate all the migratory species and only focus on identifying between the residents. So this will be like very useful to know. Second is like what kind of habitat you are seeing the bird, whether it is in the hill. For example, the Nilgiri pipit, typically if you see, it is in high elevation. High elevation in the sense like 1,500 meters and above. So if you are seeing it in the plains or the foothills, you can be very sure that it can't be a Nilgiri pipit. So the lowest elevation in which the Nilgiri pipit has been recorded is 1,000 meters. So if you are seeing a pipit in Coimbatore, you can be very sure that it is not a Nilgiri pipit because it is restricted to high elevations. And the olive-backed pipit, the tree pipit and the long-billed pipit are typically seen in hills and foothills. In the plains, you typically have paddy-field pipit, Richard's pipit, Blythe's pipit, tawny, and the red-throated pipit. So habitat helps in eliminating a lot of these species. I marked the tree pipit because tree pipit is something that you will see in high elevations also, and you will also see it in the plains also. And again, like the long-billed pipit, if you see the long-billed pipit also can be seen in the plains. In, for example, in Greater Rann of Kutch, you can see the long-billed pipit, which is actually plains. There are no hills there, but you'll see the long-billed pipit. But what the pipit long-billed pipit that we are discussing here is the Trivarancorensis subspecies, which is only seen in the south of the country, which is not seen in the North India. And this Trivarancorensis subspecies is restricted to the hills and the foothills. You will not see them in the plains. So the location is a very important clue in identifying the pipit. And chest markings. So there are like the tree pipit, the olive-backed pipit, the Nilgiri pipit, and the red-throat pipit. They have like very extensive chest markings, whereas the paddy-field, Richard's, Blythe's, tawny, and the long-billed pipit, they have like very faint and in some cases like very non-existent chest. They won't have any chest markings at all. For example, tawny pipit sometimes like can show no chest markings at all. So the chest markings are a very important identification pointer. So just for the sake of illustration, I'm showing a collection of images which show the chest markings. So on the top left, you have like the tree pipit. Bottom right, bottom left, you have the Nilgiri pipit. The center, you have an olive-backed pipit. Top right, you have the paddy-field pipit. And bottom right, you have like, you can see that it's a tawny pipit. It has like no chest markings at all. This picture was taken in Greater Rann of Kutch. It has like no chest markings at all. So this chest markings is an important identification pointer, which can help you zero in on a few species. So, okay, so now I think to make it the process very simple, what I've done is like, I made it like differentiating pipits of the hills and pipits of the plains. So pipits of the hills are like 4 pipits, which is like basically your olive-backed, your tree pipit, your Nilgiri pipit, and your long-billed pipit. Whereas the pipits of the plains are like your paddy-field, the Richards, the Blythe's, the tawny, and your red-throated pipit. All the rest of the pipits are your pipits of the plains. So let's say you're in a location like about 1,000 to 1,500 meters above sea level, and you see a pipit. This pipit has to fall among the 3 or 4 pipits that we discussed. So we'll see how to distinguish them based on the habitat. So, so you are about 1,500 meters in above the sea level. You are on some hill station. You see a pipit with extensive chest markings, of course, and the first aspect that you need to look at is like whether it has any cheek patches or not. So the tree pipit, if you look at the tree pipit has like no cheek patch. But whereas if you look at the olive-backed pipit, it has like a black cheek patch. In fact, the olive-backed pipit is the only pipit among the pipits of the hills which has a cheek patch. So if you are at 1,500 meters and you see a bird which has like a black cheek patch, like you see in this image right now, you can be very sure that it's an olive-backed pipit. So the other thing is like a malar stripe. Malar stripe, as I said, is the stripe which extends from the beak to the throat. So, so all the pipits, whether it's hills or plains, they all have like a malar stripe. Whether it's thin or thick, they have some sort of a malar stripe. The only pipit which does not have any malar stripe is the Nilgiri pipit. So if you see a pipit like at 1,500 feet elevation, there's no malar stripe, then you can be very sure that it is like a Nilgiri pipit. The other aspect, I mean, of course, like the coloration is very unique. Nilgiri pipit, it's unmistakable. It has like extensive streakings on the chest. The bill is like completely black, whereas like in the olive-backed pipit and the other pipits, like at least like it'll be in dual tones. Like the top will be dark, the bottom will be pale. So if you see a pipit which does not have a malar stripe, you can be very sure that it is like a Nilgiri pipit. Okay, and the bill length. So bill length, if you see a pipit at like high elevation, let's say 1,500 meters, which like has like a very slightly longer bill when compared to a typical pipit, you can be very sure that it's a long-billed pipit. The Trivancorensis subspecies that we see in the South India is very different from the long-billed pipit nominate species which we've seen in the North India. North India, long-billed pipit is like very different. In fact, it has like no markings in the back. It's a very plain looking pipit. It's very easy to identify also if it's seen in the north of the country. Whereas the Trivancorensis species, it's a very different pipit. It has like very strongly colored, very extensive markings on the back and on the chest as well. So the bill length is the other identification pointer. So, so you've seen how to identify the olive-backed pipit. The cheek patch is the main identification pointer. The malar stripe is the main identification point for the Nilgiri pipit. The bill length is the main identification point for the long-billed pipit. And if it is none of the three pipits, it has to be a tree pipit. That's how you arrive at it. It's simply a process of elimination. Let's go ahead. So now coming to the differentiating the pipits of the plains. So I think the most common species right now that we see is the paddy field pipit. And now it is summer, the month of May or June, monsoons, just before the onset of the monsoons is when most of the resident birds are breeding. And now it's a good time to observe the paddy field pipit at a very close range in different plumages. And, you know, we have to study it very, very closely. We have to study as many specimens as possible so that we can internalize ourselves and become very, very familiar with the paddy field pipit. So the moment you once the winter starts, you observe other migrants coming in. The moment you see a different looking bird from the commonly known paddy field pipit, you will know that, okay, there's something different. We need to change. So we need to check what pipit it is. So the paddy field pipit is a very proportional bird. It has like a dual tone beak. The top beak is dark, the bottom beak is like typically pale. The lores, the area between the eye to the beak is like typically dark, but in some juveniles it can be pale also. But the Richards and the Blyth's pipit will have like very pale lores. This area between the eye to the beak will be very pale in Blyth's and Richards pipit. So, and the other thing about the paddy field pipit is that it will have very extensive streakings on the crown. There will be like a small break when just the mantle starts, just behind the neck area. There will be streakings on the head, there will be streakings on the nape, but there will be a small gap in the mantle, and again they will start, the streakings will start again. So this break will maybe not be present in the Blyth's and the this pipit, Richards pipit. So this is another important identification pointer. So I'll show another picture of a paddy field pipit. Again, this again paddy field pipit. You can see the dual tone beak, the streakings on the crown, streakings on the back. There'll be a small gap on the streakings on the just when the mantle is starting. So that area there'll be like usually plain, and it has like whitish outer trail feathers. Okay, so now we know how the paddy field pipit looks like. So it has like a very marked upper parts, but if it is like largely unmarked, then you can be very sure that it is like a tawny pipit. Of course, like in North India, the long-billed pipit or the nominate species also has like a very plain looking back, but the long-billed pipit that we see here, the Trivancorensis subspecies, is heavily streaked on the backside. So if it is largely unmarked pipit, the only pipit possible here in South India, that too in Tamil Nadu, it's like the tawny pipit. So you can see a typical tawny pipit image here. Okay, so how do we distinguish the Blyth's pipit? The Blyth's pipit, the dead giveaway is the if you look at the median coverts, I've shown the coverts area marked in a circle, red circle. The paddy field pipit has like very triangular shaped centers to the median coverts, whereas like the Blyth's pipit, it has like a very square shaped centers to the median coverts. The shape of the centers to the median coverts is the main identification pointer for a Blyth's pipit. Of course, it has like a very pale lore. And the other thing is like what I have noticed personally when seeing Blyth's pipit is that it looks like it's wearing some spectacle in the field. So that's like a giveaway for a Blyth's pipit. So the square shaped centers to the median coverts, if you see, you don't need to look at anything else. It's like a Blyth's pipit. And hind toe nail, if you look at like it's actually in the case of like paddy field pipit on the left here, the hind toe nail like is not there's nothing abnormal about it. It's like a normal shaped hind toe nail, whereas in a Richards pipit, the hind toe nail is longer. The tail tends to touch the ground. It has a more upright strands. And I said like in a paddy field pipit, there will be a gap in the streakings from the crown to the upper side in the mantle, when the mantle is starting, but when in Richard's pipit, the streaking is almost continuous. From the crown to the wings, there's continuous streaking. There's no break in the mantle. So that is another pointer for a Richard's pipit. So, okay. So coming to the chest markings. So we have identified Blythe's pipit. We have identified a Tawney pipit. We have identified a Richard's pipit. So the balance two pipits that is remaining in the plains to see, tree pipit and a red-throated pipit. So the paddy-field pipit on the left, it has like very faint chest markings. Whereas the tree pipit and the red-throated pipit, they both have quite extensive chest markings. But between the tree pipit and the red-throated pipit, you can see that the tree pipit, the chest markings only extends to the chest. Whereas the red-throated pipit, it extends all the way to the belly. You can see it on the flanks as well. So this is how you distinguish a tree pipit from a red-throated pipit. So this red-throated pipit was photographed by Mahesh Ramasamy in Uppar Reservoir. I've taken this from his Facebook post. So, I mean, we have discussed the several identification pointers. Of course, the size of the bird, the lores, call, the flight pattern, and the tail length and things like that also contribute to identification. But as I said earlier in this presentation, we are trying to arrive at a very simplified process of identification. We are not trying to complicate it. This is meant for beginners to intermediate birders, and this is only restricted to pipits of South India. So I hope you found this useful. Now, as a quick recap, if you are like, let's say in the hills, and if you're looking at a pipit, let's say 1,500 to 2,000 meters elevation, it has to be one of these four pipits: hollow-backed, Nilgiri, long-billed, or tree pipit. Hollow-backed will have like a black cheek patch. Nilgiri pipit, the mala stripe will not be absent. The long-billed pipit has a very long bill, and it has like a very faint chest markings also. The tree pipit, the cheek patch is absent. Black cheek patch is absent. The malar stripe is present. It has a shorter bill when compared to the longer pipit. So after eliminating the top three pipits, you arrive at the tree pipit. So as a recap for the pipits of the plains, Tawney pipit lacks markings on the upper side. Blythe's pipit has like a square-shaped centers to median coverts. The Richard's pipit has like a longer hind-toe nail. Tree pipit, the chest markings extend only up to the chest. Red-throated pipit, chest markings extend to the belly. So we have like a short identification quiz, just for sake that, I mean, just to make sure that we have understood everything that we have covered so far. But I think it's a 3-slide quiz. People who want to identify can unmute their mics and identify the species. Yeah, if you are a beginner, if you are like already an intermediate to an advanced bird watcher, I think I request you to hold back. The idea is to let the new members to identify the birds first. So it's not a very extensive quiz. It's just three pictures we have for identification. Yeah. So without further ado, the first image. So based on the different things that we discussed in the presentation, people have to say whether it's a pipit or lark. And of course, there's no prizes for guessing what it is. It's just like for fun, just to know whether you're able to do it.
Is it a pipit?
Yeah.
I think it's a lark.
This looks like a lark.
Okay, and why
Yeah.
do you say it's a lark?
The bill is thick and the crest is
There
also
is a
slightly
sign of a
visible.
crest on top,
That's
and the bill is thick.
yeah. You're both right. It's like an oriental skylark, and the oriental skylark doesn't always show very prominent crest. Sometimes, like the crest is very, flat on the ground, like what you see here. The main identification pointer here is of course, like as the Harini and I'm not sure the other person.
Laya.
Laya, okay, ma'am. Laya ma'am said the bill is the main identification pointer here. So it's Oriental Skylark. It was photographed in Kalangal in Coimbatore district. So congratulations, Laya ma'am, and Harini also. So we are able to identify whether it's a pipit or lark, because so Oriental Skylark is the species which most of the people struggle with. So if that is clear, I think we can confidently move on to the next slide. So identify the pipit. This pipit was photographed in Sultanbet. It's fairly, I think, open country, plains. Sultanbet is in Coimbatore district, if I'm not wrong. And 12th September 2017 is the date of the photograph.
Nilgiri pipit?
Okay.
Is it a tawny pipit?
This could be a tawny pipit or a tree pipit.
The tree pipits are found in the higher plains. This is in Coimbatore, no? So maybe
Yeah, exactly.
The ground.
No markings.
Tree pipits are present.
There are no
in
chest
plains
markings
also.
on the belly. Chest markings
There's
are there only.
no malar
Tree
stripe.
pipit has chest markings up to its chest.
Yeah.
So I would say this
There's
is a tree
no
pipit.
malar stripe, no? But it's not a hill pipit
Tree
at all.
pipits can be found in the hills and in the
And in the
foothills.
plains.
Yeah.
Oh.
Plains is a random case exception, he said.
Tree pipit, yeah.
And it's on a tree also.
Yeah, it is in fact a tree pipit. As I said, like, tree pipit is one species, it's a tricky species. It is seen in the hills and also in the plains. So we have to be a little careful with the tree pipit. And it's a tree pipit because Nilgiri pipit is eliminated because first of all, Nilgiri pipit is only seen 1,500 meters and above. So if you are seeing it in the plains, then Nilgiri pipit has to be eliminated. And the second thing is, like, I think the malar stripe is there in this bird, but it is very visible in this angle. That's why it's important to take multiple pictures also. And the other thing is, like, as one of you rightly pointed out, the chest markings, the markings on the breast extend only up to the chest. It doesn't extend into the belly. So you're very right. It is, in fact, a tree pipit.
Why is this not a tawny pipit, Balaji sir? Tawny pipit will not have chest markings.
Tawny pipit will not have like very extensive chest markings. Very faint. Sometimes tawny pipit does not have any chest markings at all.
Okay.
Okay. Okay,
What about the earlier picture?
Yeah.
You said one of the pipits had the hind toe. There was a differentiator, right?
Yeah, that is like the Richard's pipit has a longer hind toe nail.
Okay. This hind toe also seemed a little prominent, so I was just wondering. The previous one, the second picture.
This one?
The tree pipit, yeah.
You can't see the toenail, no? The hind toenail, can you?
Yeah, hind toenail is not very visible in this angle. I mean, I think.
Oh, acha. Yeah, maybe I'm mistaken. It's,
yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, it can be confusing, the hind toenail. So that's important. I mean, the best picture that you could possibly get of any pipit is that of its side profile on the ground. But pipits being difficult by itself, they won't give you the perfect picture every time. They tend to be in a clutter, or they, they give you a very difficult time generally. But anyway, like this pipet, I think we don't have to get into the Richard's pipet at all. The reason being, Richard pipet has like fairly faint markings on the chest. The chest markings are very prominent here. And there are only two pipets in the plains which has very prominent chest markings. So one is the tree pipet and the other is the red throat pipet. The tree pipet has the chest markings only extend up to the chest. The red-throated pipet extends up to its flanks and its belly also. So since the flanks and the belly, which are very clear from this image, it is like there are no markings. So we can be fairly confident that it is a tree pipet. And by the way, my village happens to be one of the places where you can see tree pipets in hundreds in the winters. So next winter, this is my village. It's like a short distance from Sultanpet. It's about, from Coimbatore, it's about 45 kilometers. So, whoever's on the call is very welcome to visit my village in the winters. You can see tree pipets in hundreds. Okay. So next, next picture for identification. This location of the photograph is in Kalangal, which is a very famous birding hotspot in Coimbatore district, of course, near Coimbatore, 30 kilometers from Coimbatore. And the date of the picture is 23rd September 2017.
Is it Blythe?
I would guess this is a paddy field pipit on the basis that the bill is looking dual toned. And the center of the median coverts, they look triangular rather than square.
Okay.
It looks square to me, actually. I think it looks square to me. I was thinking of Blythe's because of that.
But Blythe's has like very pale.
I would guess it is a tawny pipit, sir.
It is a tawny pipit.
Oops.
Yeah, so see, in Blythe's, the main thing is like that it has like a very pale lores. And this bird here, like very clearly, the area, if you look at the area from the eye to the beak, you can see that it is like dark. So Blythe's will never have like a dark lore. It will have very pale lores. So that's the reason why it's not a Blythe's pipit. And if you see the chest and the back upper part, like it has like almost like no markings. So this is the main identification pointer for a tawny pipit. I think we always have an argument because like they named the bird tawny, but where's the tawny color? The tawny color is not there. So it's the tawny color is the name is actually misleading. It should probably be called a plain pipit or something else. But adding to our confusion. But this is basically the process that you'll have to follow. I'm planning to record this, share the recording of this presentation on YouTube also, and I'll share the link on the groups later, and so you can go through at your leisure and internalize these different points. So to summarize, basically we have to have a firm grounding on whether how to distinguish pipits and larks. And second thing is like we have to basically go through a process of elimination based on the timing of the sighting, the location or the habitat, the chest markings, and if you are on a hill, there are only like 4 possible pipits there. If you are on the plains, there are only 5 possible pipits there. So you can narrow down, and based on the markings on the back, the median coverts, the nails, the chest markings, you can zero in on what pipit it is. So I hope this has been of some help to you, because pipits are one area where it is like very tough. Pipit identification is not easy. I mean, a lot of people make mistakes, me included, and it's okay to make mistakes, but we have to go through basically a process of eliminating different species. And basically, the first thing that we need to do is familiarize yourself with the most common species, with the paddy field pipit, against which you can compare the other pipits. It's very important to take multiple photographs and note different aspects in the field. And juveniles can show very different plumage from the adult birds. So the pale lores, the dark lores and all these things, juveniles gets very, very confusing. So I didn't want to bring in juveniles here for this presentation, because this presentation is aimed towards beginning to intermediate birders. So thanks again for a very patient listening. These are my contact information. I'll be very happy to take your queries. Of course, we're all connected on WhatsApp as well. So at this point, the presentation, what I had prepared, is over. And if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them.